All right, looks like we're live. How we doing out there?
Hey there, guys.
Oh,
Oh, there's the echo. Whoop whoop.
all right. How about now? Are we better now? So, Ryan, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. I'm good. Just back to work after a week off this week. So just kind of getting back in the groove, but it's a short week because I forgot that this coming weekend's 4th of July weekend, so we get Friday off. So
That was a
that's good.
bonus.
That's good. And today is actually officially the last day for my parents as they officially retired, both
All
of them.
right, woo, retirement.
Congrats to my parents. They worked long and hard and well-deserved retirement for both of them. I
Yes.
appreciate all they have done for both me and my brother. So, shout outs to you, mom and dads.
Clicking on a few things. All right, yeah. So, gonna have some fun tonight. We have fun every week when we come and do this, right?
Oh yes, I always do. You know, you never know what the Ry guy's gonna say, especially if he gets
Yeah,
on a
that might be a little.
soapbox.
That might be a little controversial. We don't want to be too controversial.
Oh well, it's not really controversial. I just like wet fishes. You know, wet fishes are good, especially at the sushi market. So,
Yeah. Speaking of fishes, I went out and did some fishing this past weekend.
good segue.
Yeah, see, I like that.
Yeah.
No, it's one of my oldest friends. He and I have been friends 20 plus years now. His dad was celebrating his 60th birthday. So my buddy's like, "Hey, for my dad's 60th, I want to go fishing. Rent a charter boat and go out fishing." And I was like, "I'm down." And so he's like, it originally was planned to do it in uh May, but COVID, so obviously we're not doing that.
Mhm.
And so with that, it was all right. Well, let me. So he rescheduled it for this past weekend. So we went out, and it was a short trip. It was only a 3/4 day, so it was like 6 hours on the water. I got some sunburn, most notably on my feet. That it hurts a lot, but it was good times. We caught a bunch of the spade fish off a couple of the wrecks, and then did some trolling and stuff. We ended up coming back with like 20 plus fish because our limit for the spade fish was 6 per person, and we had 9 people on the boat.
Uh, that's
So,
a good haul there.
oh, it was. And it turns out spade fish is actually a clean fish, which means you could literally catch it, fillet it, and then start eating it. You don't even have to worry about cooking it.
So sushi on the boat. Sounds good
I
to
didn't
me.
do that.
Yeah, well, I would. I'm, I like sushi.
I got to get some emojis for this channel.
Oh yes,
I just,
in
just
time.
so I just had to. I just ADD moment. I just thinking about that. It's like I don't have any emojis yet. I need to figure out some emojis. So
I don't know.
maybe I'll open that up to my contributors over on over on our Discord to see if they have some suggestions. Because part of the perk of being a contributor is being able to submit artwork and like that we'll use for the channel. Kind of a way to give back to those who are showing support.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, we did that on Saturday. We went out and did the fishing thing, and then so came back, had some fried fish. It was great, best fish I've had in a while because you get a little sick of eating salmon and cod and things like that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm a cannibal or anything by eating a fish that my family is named after, but that's a whole nother story for a whole different
Temptation.
environment. Alrighty, so real quick before we get too much in there, we gotta pay the bills. By that, I'm just
Bills. Yes. Yes.
giving credit, giving announcements, setting expectations as best I can. A couple of quick announcements. Number one, of course, shout out to Syrinscape for the background musics and whatnot that we're hearing. This is again my custom sound set that I made. That's a combination of a couple of my favorite ambient type things. It's for Scuba Studio. Right now we got the forest theme going on here. Go check them out. There's a link in
Check them out.
in the panels here on Twitch. There's also links in the show notes to wherever you consume this content. Again, reminder that this comes out as a podcast on all the major podcast areas. Next month, we're probably going to start revamping our podcast hosting,
A little bit
and
tweaking.
trying to get a legit website going for the studio and the shows and splitting the shows up. So that I believe that project is about ready to get started. I kind of have to do it because in August I got to renew where I'm currently hosting the audio feed, and so I found some. As with anything, you learn as you go. I learned a new place to do this, so I'm gonna give that a shot. See what's up. Maybe I'll get a sponsor out of it. Fingers crossed. Um, Programming note: there will be no challenge accepted game this weekend. It is 4th of July weekend for those of us in the States celebrating our independence. Typically a day marked with barbecues and fireworks and whatnot. So don't want to impose D&D on people who've got families because, family first.
First.
I'm not doing much. I'm probably just going to sit around the house.
Well, there's no fireworks display in this area, but there'll probably be plenty of barbecues.
Yep. Another thing, shout out to last week. I was a guest on the Players Table, which is a Thursday night show that Realmsmith puts on with the host Joel. Had a great bit of fun. A little bit of tech issue for some reason. I had to sit there and do the whole. He would talk, and then I'd have to mute the tab so then I could talk, and then back and forth. But a bunch of questions came in for me that we didn't get to. So, talking it over with Joel and whatever, I'm going to answer those questions on this show tonight. And
for you.
They have a surprise about this later this month, later in July. Kind of a teaser on that. So we got a tentative date. So I don't want to say anything until I can confirm the date. But I do have a tentative date for something special, something new for our evolution as a show.
We evolve as we swim the further in the seas. I'll dive a little bit more. Just make sure I have the mask on.
Yeah, I got to keep that snorkel mask on or the breathing apparatus. So those are my announcements. Ry, do you have any announcements?
I don't have anything big other than the major one about my parents retiring. I was off for a week last week, so it was a good, relaxing week. Ventured out to the aquarium, ventured out to the local state park for some hiking, got a bunch of mojitos with my cousin. Movies, games. I did jump back into reading some manga, and I read all the way through the Promised Neverland manga because I wanted to find out what happened after the anime, and I got hooked and finished it up last night. Other than that, nothing else. Just slowly working through my side writing projects and reading so I can get my mind back in the groove and ready for school round 2. A little bit tip-tapper in the wet sand, but gotta dive somewhere. Start on the beach, into the bay.
Let's go ahead and kick it. Get into reviews. Alrighty, so for our reviews, our first review this week, our only review this week, is going to be the movie Irresistible.
Irresistible. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is this a film that was put out premiere video on demand, or something we could find on Netflix or Amazon?
This was one of those newer movies that got pushed out on VOD because obviously we all know why. And it is a comedy of sorts, but more of a political satire. It hits the nail on the noggin. It doesn't dance around the bush. It's a political satire. And it focuses on a DC strategist by the name of Gary Zimmer, played by Steve Carell, who picks up on a YouTube video of a retired veteran by the name of Gary Hastings, played by Chris Cooper, who he thinks could win the mayoral race in a small town in Wisconsin. And basically, he goes there, he meets with them, and then the movie starts from that point. After that key incident, it's all about the mayoral race, with Zimmer running his campaign under the Democrat ticket, and then what happens is his incumbent gets another person coming in, Rose Byrne, who plays Faith Brewster, who is the Republican strategist that comes in, and it pretty much becomes a political satire of modern-day American politics. and it's written and directed by Jon Stewart. And watching this film, it does a very great job right off the point of showing the flaws and how modern day society is enraptured by the politics of the day. But it also does a great job in doing it through comedic characters, dramatic motifs, and societal narratives. What Jon Stewart does really good is that he lays out a basic outline of the political landscape, and you watch the campaign going back and forth, but it never beats you over the head over, ideology, strategy, or nothing. He does it through just a general outline and through the strong character interactions that Zimmer has with Hastings. Watching Steve Carell in this role, he's a chameleon at this point, because I think in this role you get to see a different side of him, because I've never seen him in a political satire. I've seen him in comedies, I've seen him in dramas, but in a staunch political satire film, he is on point with a lot of the comedic timing, the interactions that he had with Hastings or Rose Byrne's characters, and and it drives away a lot of it brings to the limelight the blindness and ambition that can be done in American politics, but in a very foolish way. So when the film heads into the second half, there's a lot of the race gets heated up, and you get a lot of sequences of typical back and forth comedic antics. So you get, the typical physical humor, crude, blunt conversations, and some like over the top cheesiness. It does take away from a lot of the satire for a little bit, but then everything comes to head. You kind of know what's going to happen at the end, because there's a lot of foreshadowing of what's happening. But for all the strengths of the satire, of the lens on American politics, the two-party system, and the great acting from Steve Carell, there's a couple twists that happen in the final act and the climax that kind of brings it down and kind of ruins the whole point of what I think Jon Stewart was trying to do with the film. But ironically, at the same time, it brings a sense of awareness to the truth of what is fractured in society. So overall, it's a hodgepodge of greatness, goodness, and kind of terrible script writing. So take it away, Scuba.
I didn't get a chance to check this out, but it sounds like I've seen some of this before in other formats.
Yeah, you probably have. It's very comical. It's very politically driven. It doesn't really try to be original. It just takes a different scenario and throws in different colors to make it a little bit different, because it focuses on a lot of the modern day politics that are happening right now. So it's very in your face, but it never takes away or feeds biases to one message or another. It just puts it out there and like, these are the problems, but he does it. Jon Stewart, if you know Jon Stewart's comedy, he does it in a very stand-up-y, blunt way. So it's very obvious, but it doesn't really go one way or the other. It straddles that average line. So
what's the rating on this one?
Overall, I think it's a good commentary on American politics. So if you are very aware of everything's going on, it will put a limelight on it and all the flaws in the two-party system. If you're a fan of Stewart, social commentary and satires, I think it would give you a few laughs. Overall, it would be a good Friday night at home. So 2.5 out of 5 Friday night rental. So, and you can do it. It's on VOD, on demand. Check it out, people.
Got my shot.
Doop. But I'm looking forward to this weekend, though, because I realized what's dropping this weekend.
Oh, really? What's dropping this weekend?
On Disney Plus, the film version of Hamilton. So that will be the watch of the weekend. And so far, it's getting positive buzz from.
I've never seen the play.
Yeah, I've never seen the play, but I love musicals. And if a musical's done great in film, it can really take your breath away. No pun intended.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, I guess with that,
what we got?
State of game.
Dun. Da-da-da.
State of Game, where we talk about games and all things games.
Digital dice and everything in between, people.
Yeah. Love that new Glacier set. Used that last night on the Tides of Wildmount season finale. It was
Hey, that's awesomeness.
So,
pun intended.
As usual, we start off with Ry. You got any video games for us?
Yeah, even with all the time off, I kind of laid low, but I did, this would make Scuba proud, I did start playing Days Gone. So I did get in a few hours in Days Gone. My initial impressions of the game is that it feels like a more narrative-driven State of Decay. That's what it feels like to me.
Yes.
And this is only in the few hours, so I could definitely tell it's a character-driven game. It's an open world, like zombie invested game, but you can tell there's more than just the zombie enemies out there.
Yes. It's got a great. The premise is really good.
Yeah.
It takes place in the Pacific Northwest. It takes. It's this post-apocalyptic type thing, and you're right. It has a very strong similarity to State of Decay with the hordes coming around.
Yeah.
However, I think the AI is much better, but
it's not as clunky. Yeah, it's not as clunky. I can definitely tell that right off the bat.
Yeah, and unlike State of Decay, it's the character story, and the fact that the lead character in this is played by Sam Witwer. If you're not familiar with who Sam Witwer is, he did a show on Sci-Fi Channel, an Americanized version. I lost the name of the show.
I don't know.
It was a vampire, a ghost, and a werewolf that live in a house together.
I think I might know, but it's not anyway right now.
But he did that. He also is pretty prominent in voice acting in video games because he was Star Killer in Force Unleashed and Force Unleashed 2. And then, again with Star Wars, he played the voice of Darth Maul in Star Wars The Clone Wars and Palpatine in Star Wars The Clone Wars. In Rebels, obviously, they got the original actor to come back to do Palpatine. And Sam Witwer does a pretty good job imitating it, but can't imitate an original like that.
Yeah, but so far I enjoyed the interactions in the game. I can tell like this game has just very minimalistic when it comes to the skill tree and the action in the game. But I like there's an organic nature to the game that makes it feel real. So when you're scoping out, like say in one of the first missions, you're scoping out trying to get to a gas station. You have to be smart about what you're doing because every enemy type is different. And then when I invaded a human camp, I noticed how you have to use your environment to get around or take it. So this does look like a game where it fits that middle ground where I don't have to do too in-depth stuff, but just enough depth where I can keep engaged for a while. So we'll give more updates as podcast comes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing hearing how you play through it.
Yeah.
I, of course, watched it through Gamer's Little Playground because I don't have a PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really great story. It's a long story, too, for the game. But then again, as we've already touched on, video games in this day and age are getting up near 100 plus gigabytes for a story.
Yeah.
So
just look at the one that just dropped about a week ago, Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, that was a good story. I didn't really like the constantly recurring theme of revenge.
Yeah.
I felt that got a little beaten to death, but what I do really love about Last of Us is the multiple storylines. So, don't want to spoil it too much.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's a great game. Top notch. Laura Bailey, Ashley Johnson, all of them that are in there. Troy Baker, great game, great acting, great ability. It's just we could talk about that after some more people have played it.
Oh yeah, I might pick it up. Like I played the first game, it was okay to me. I've heard interesting things about the second game. I mean, other than the revenge story and all the stuff. So, but the next game on my deck is Ghost of Tsushima. That comes out in a week and a half. So, you know, I will definitely give you in-depth perspective of that game.
Yeah, shout out to chat. Yeah, Laura Bailey is in there. She's one of the principal characters in this one. It was announced what character she would be. It showcased a year or so ago that the character she would be playing, but you didn't know how that character fit into the story until you see the story go out. So it's a great. I had forgotten she was in the film, to be totally honest, until a recent tweet from her from when she was doing strength training for the role. So
yeah, I definitely would avoid the interwebs and not even type in the name, because you might get spoilers right off the bat.
Yeah, definitely go check it out. And tell us how you're enjoying it. Anything else video game wise for you, or
anything video game wise? Well, I did just kind of went and picked up Switch to play some more Torchlight 2 just because I just love it. So
check out that promo for Torchlight 3.
I want it now. I know there's early access, but I avoid early access because I want to play the game fresh at launch. But I am excited for Torchlight 3, and I will make sure I can play that game somehow, some way.
That works. I unfortunately don't have any video game stuff to talk about. So I'm probably gonna play some this weekend. Maybe I'll stream playing a game on Saturday.
Maybe we can do a team up and we can do a playthrough on Days Gone at some point. I'll bring the PS4 over.
Couldn't hurt.
Thoughts? Think about it.
Couldn't hurt. I mean, anything to make content, but as long as it's content people actually want and enjoy.
Or Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, I still have that stack of stuff. I still got Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, I did lend you that game a while ago.
Oh yeah.
But in time we become a Jedi.
Alrighty, so that leads up for some D&D info or stuff to talk about.
Throw them dice, Scuba.
Yeah, so the first thing just a quick bit. If you were not here last Saturday for Challenge Accepted, I got a couple of cool milestones for that one. Number one, I did not have to stop and restart the stream. It went through, and it looks like it went through pretty well. So I'm happy for that. I think I have a working I think I have there was one issue with it, but that was my camera was not picking me up anymore, so I'll have to troubleshoot that. But the important thing is the players' cameras and player stuff was good. So, thanks for the cheers. So with that, another thing was the gameplay for the adventure went pretty well. And there were some interesting things from it that I have to say it was really kind of something that I need to work on in my planning, but also encourage the players have conversations outside the game to kind of strategize going into things. The tagline for the episode is "Burning down the house." Well,
okay.
I'm not gonna name names. Well, let's just say a grease spell, a couple of swarms of spiders, and a flint and steel and a high survival check. Let's just say that does not add up to be a great experience.
It doesn't sound like it's a win-win situation. No matter if you're on it doesn't. No win-win situation there.
yeah, but it was good, and it was good because I got to actually do a couple of different things. Number one, I got to it was this whole comedy of errors in communication, because I couldn't. It was just so. It was like here it is on a silver platter. Go ahead, use it, and I'm like, Okay. But another thing, I got to break out my hourglasses.
Uh-oh.
So as I said on there, and I'll say it again here, is like I when I went to Wisconsin for my grandmother's 90th birthday, I found a set of three hourglasses, a red one, this gray one. The other one's this one's kind of a blue, the other one's kind of a smoky color. And I got them with the intent because when I had teens on parade, they would spend a lot of time chattering amongst each other. And so it would be like it would take 15 to 20 minutes to do a single round of combat because they spent all this time talking and debating and arguing with each other on what skills to do. And I remember catching a bit on some of the behind the scenes stuff and Dungeon Master tips from Matt Mercer about some of the players when they would see him pull out the hourglass, they were just hating it because the hourglass signified that you had a finite amount of time to figure it out and get out. Otherwise, you could spend hours debating on what to do. So it was one of those situations, got to apply that. So I'm hoping I can use that again. I know when I was thinking with the teens, I'd flip them over, and it's kind of a stagger. It's like different color would signify something bad or worse happening, but sometimes it's like, and one of the things I've learned in the last couple of months is keep it simple, keep it straightforward, and life will be so much easier for you when trying to handle multiple moving parts like that. But needless to say, there was no fatalities.
That's good.
No fatalities. No one was seriously injured.
I like the quotes there.
Yeah, no one was seriously injured. Nobody died. No death saving throws, which I call that as a win. I'm not out to kill the party, but it interesting. It led to the fact that it's like, okay, trying to encourage them to discuss, and some of the conversation so far has been really good. I'm not going to give it away because that's player, and this is DM player confidentiality. So what their tactics are, I may watch, but I will not interfere. I may throw out a little bit of, hey, FYI, in case you hadn't considered it, here's a possible option to go through. My whole thing is there is no one way out of a situation. If there's ever one way out of a situation, then I did my job poorly by not setting up multiple ways out of a situation.
Not good, DM. Not good.
I'm trying.
Gotta try.
So that was fun. We're going to take the next week off because of the holiday, and then we'll come back on the 11th.
Yes, sir.
To do our next session. And I think we're going to try and wrap up the current bit with that, at least because it really feels like this next session really kind of does have to wrap up the first part of the module, because it's actually a two-part module that leads into other stories. But I don't want that. But I need to know what their plan is before going on to the next. If they're going to go on to the next half of the module, or is going to set them up for going somewhere else, or are they inadvertently going to set up my West Marches game that, with a lot of help from people within the Discord channel, have been helping, kind of giving me some feedback on, is I'm starting up a West Marches style in there. So if you subscribe here on Twitch, then you get access to the West Marches game on Discord. Few exceptions to that are those who actually play games on stream with me, because I already am thankful that they're donating their time to let me make content. So I don't have to worry about with them. By getting in there, and then it's like seeing this, and it's like can kind of set up. I'm kind of taking some things I've learned from some other places and trying to develop things. One of the things we developed was something called the balladeer. A balladeer is kind of another name for a minstrel. These are the people who tell stories.
Yeah.
I'm envisioning balladeers as being mini dungeon masters, weavers of secrets and whispers to kind of litter the world with possible adventures for the players to go through. And then it's like if group wants to do a particular adventure, can kind of open that up for more content as far as, hey, well, we're going to do a session with these players because they're at this point. We'll do a quick Zoom call to do the session, and then allow them their thing, or but the idea is that will affect what my other table games do. So it's an idea I've seen, and it's an idea that makes a lot of sense as far as community interaction, and it's something I want to see kind of develop even. So
Sounds like a good plan.
it is. So now that I've babbled on about that, I'm gonna go through and pull out the questions from the players table that were not answered last week. I'm going to answer them here.
Let's answer away.
Answer away. If there's some questions that want to come in, I'm going to borrow a working method because it's simple. Question in all caps, and then ask your question. I'll try and keep an eye on them there. So, let's see. Scrolling back up. Let's see. Okay, here was one. This was from someone known, That Game Chair. What was my DM origin story, if I don't mind sharing? That one is kind of easy as far as Dungeons and Dragons DMing. It was a friend of mine, and I've said it a couple of times. A friend of mine wanted to run Curse of Strahd 4th edition book because there was no 5th edition out, and it was only supposed to be for 4 weeks. But the players were having so much fun that it lasted 9 months.
Yeah,
before,
4 weeks to 9 months.
Yeah, it's like they'd kind of go off the rails, and there was a lot of things I learned from that. I learned I will never again run an XP based game. I will always run milestone, because I will give you XP per the guidelines in the book. So if the guideline says you survived a day, you get this amount of XP. You killed these creatures, you get XP. You do these role play things, you get XP. There's a lot of ways to get XP, and it can just run. But I feel milestone is a little more balanced. Now, I don't know how I'm going to handle leveling on the Discord server. That's a whole nother conversation I need to talk to get a few more perspectives on with that. So before that, I would DM Palladium's Rifts and Robotech. I would try and go through doing those, and those were pretty good. I had a great Rifts game where I basically took the books. I took what you perceived the factions were, and I put them in a blender and then spit it back out to people. So they had no idea. It's like, wait a minute, these monsters belong to this faction. No, they don't. It's my world. So I like to mix and just throw things, and that has transferred over into the way I do Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. Let's see. Next question from Vada Monster. What is your advice on would-be D&D campaign streaming? I want to start at least a one-shot later this year. That one, you really just got to figure out how you're going to do your stream. If you're going to use, and are the players going to be at the table, or are the players going to be in a Zoom call? Figure out how to do that, and then just do it. I mean, you don't have to. You could record it and then upload it, or you could actually run through and stream it. You can use a variety of platforms to do it. You could use OBS. You could use XSplit. There's even a program on Mac if you're a Mac person. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But there's a number of ways as far as the whole production side. But know that it is a lot of moving parts. And if you have a hard time managing just the game setting as Dungeon Master, then trying to do that and run the production can leave you a little crazy. If you have somebody who can run the production stuff, and then you run the game stuff, that's great, because then that allows someone to be a little more attentive to any kind of technical issues that come up. Also, you don't need a whole lot. Like this studio setup right here, I have two Logitech C920s, and I have a Logitech C270. As far as cameras, I don't have anything more high dollar than that right now. So that could kind of work out. Also, pay attention to how other streamers or productions do their camera placement and how they set up their cameras. You don't need a whole lot to do it. If you think you do, that was the major hang up I had, was thinking I needed $20,000 worth of camera equipment and microphones. You don't. Snowball mic, what, $70 at Best Buy. A couple of C920s or a C920, depending on how you want to
Yeah,
angle
it's
it.
you can work around with the technology nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a question in there for me.
Yes, there is. Let's go with that. Ry Guy, do you play any tabletop RPG?
Do I play any tabletop RPG? It's a no. I have tried in the past. And then when I was way back in the day when I was young in middle school, I tried to create my own version of a tabletop game out of Dragon Ball Z. I had it all set up. I had all the dice. I had the game rules written and everything. And then when I moved from the townhouse to our house, I lost everything. So yeah, that's when I really was like, no, and I went a different path in my creativity.
We'll have to get you. We'll have to get you to come on to Challenge Accepted.
Oh yeah, I'm down to venture into the tabletop stuff. I am an avid gamer, or at least a video gamer, been all my life. So it would be another branch for me to jump into. Might be fun.
What do you guys think? Think we should get him as a on Challenge Accepted sometime, or that should be like an obvious answer, right? Righty. Next.
Throw that hook in the water with the right bait. No.
That's all you need. Actually, you just need the right and you need the right environment. All right. Rapid Descent. Question from him was, how old is too old to play D&D? Let me ask you. Are you still alive? And you're not too old.
You're never too old to play D&D.
No. I remember years ago my dad asked me why was I so big into these RPGs, and I was like, it's scenarios. I mean, that's what you do. It's no different than it really is no different than real life. It's like you're presented a situation and you use what you know. The only difference is the dice will tell you how successful you were at trying to do it. So, and there's somebody who's a little more. There's always somebody overwatching in Overwatch, whether it's an almighty spirit that we believe in, or it's somebody sitting behind the table with a stack of books and seemingly infinite knowledge on how many different ways things can go.
But yeah, you're never too old. You're never too old to enjoy something of your own passion.
And with that, it actually is proven, and I can say this from personal experience. My grandmother and my grandfather. My grandfather didn't seem really into trying new things. My grandmother's always testing her mental capacity. So even at 90 years old, she's always asking questions and trying to figure out new things. And having that kind of active mental activity has staved off some of the things like dementia and memory loss and all of those things as you're getting into those ages. So honestly, if I could be playing Dungeons and Dragons at 90 years old, I am all for it. I may not be the dungeon master, but I will still play, or I will still talk to people about playing. I can confidently say this is going to be how I end my life.
Yeah, you see that especially you see a lot of the videos on YouTube or in various places where you see like 80-year-olds and plus still playing like WoW on the computer and all this stuff, or that grandmother that was playing Skyrim and streaming it. So you're never too old for your passions. Never too old.
Yes. Happy birthday, Glock.
Happy birthday, Glock. Another June baby. Welcome to the club.
All right, we have a comment from Sakura163. Was thanking me for helping a noob learn the ropes. That's actually one of the things I love most about playing games.
But yeah, I love teaching. I love showing people how to play new games. And
Thank you for the follows.
You got follows.
Ew, let me go to that activity fee. B Fisher 13, thank you for the follow.
Thank you, B Fisher.
Thank you for the bits. Oh, and I gotta dial back because special new follow from Galaxy Tim 34. Just heard through the grapevine it was his birthday recently, so gotta give him a shout out. He's joining in on the fun.
Thank you. Happy birthday. Welcome.
Yep. So that was a comment from her. Next question is from Outlaw79. Scuba, who's your favorite character from Challenge Accepted? I'm asking for Gilly. That's like you tell that's when your kids ask, "Who's your favorite kid, Dad?" No, I'm
It's
not
not
answering that
you,
question.
so stop asking.
Every character I have loved every character that has come across my table, whether it's Challenge Accepted, No Quarter, Teens on Parade, or any of the ones I've played with my friends over the last decade and a half. I
Lots to
will
do.
not answer that with anything other than I love all of them because all of them bring something to the table. Every one of them brings something to the table. Some of them may frustrate me, but that I take that as not I'm frustrated because I'm just angry. I'm take it as I'm frustrated because now I need to expand my capabilities to handle that. It's one of the things I both love and hate it when I have a player who tries to break things and I have to sit there and go, guess what? Rule zero. Don't know it. I'm gonna learn it.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm a student of life. I love learning new things. So
And
venturing out to.
it's other people's perspectives on the character creation that I'm most interested in because, like I've said this before. I have a friend who likes to take concepts of characters from anime and comics and reverse engineer them into D&D. There's probably one of the more famous ones is Wart Cagner, who in my version of Barovia is the one who was left standing after the incident from the last party that went to Barovia. And I was talking to the player of that character, and we were kind of discussing his psychology and what he would do in Barovia. So it might be my players go to Barovia if my plan A does not pan out. I do have a plan B, and the plan B is to go back to Barovia after the first party went through, and to see how some of those things could be affected by that. So I need to do a little more research, but it's always fun there. Let's see. Next question from Bada Monster. Oh, nope, that's not for me. That is all the leftover questions from the players table last week. Any new questions that have come in via chat?
Somebody was just raising their hand about the grease fire, slowly.
That's always fun. That's I. There are times in a game where something happens, you have to shake your head and be like, I know realistically this shouldn't work, but I really want to see what happens. It's that train wreck. It's that train wreck thing. It's like you see the train wreck coming, you don't want to look, but you always want to. But you want to look.
You're
Even
just
though
like,
you
what's the
look.
aftermath?
But yeah, if you have questions, do question in all caps, and I will get a command popped in there for next time, so it's easier to do. But yeah, caps question, and we'll answer questions as they come in, and when we take break from different things we're discussing, because I want to make sure we keep the interaction going.
Oh yes.
So yep, players table notes, challenge accepted. Yep. Did start planning Curse of Strahd run, as I kind of alluded to earlier. More on that as we're coming. I don't have a fixed date, but what I can say is we are going to have a session 0. And this is going to go into our next topic that we're going to discuss, and why I'm seriously. It's like I want to sit down and have a session 0 to before we get too far into it. Kind of goes right into that.
Let's zoom in, zero in.
Let's talk.
Discussion mode.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk, and what we're going to talk about is there's a recent article that came out on D&D Beyond, or no, not D&D Beyond. It came out from
Rewind.
Wizards. It came out from Wizards. It was talking about diversity in D&D and some of the changes that pop the article link in Discord. If you are following on Discord, you can check that out later. But this was a great article because it was with everything that's gone on in the last 3 4 weeks. Which, if you don't know what's been going on in the last 3 or 4 weeks,
You've been hiding under a rock. A
you know,
very heavy rock.
yeah, because it I hate to. I mean, I don't want to sound dismissive in saying that this flares up every few years, but I think this time has definitely been different because the amount of people who are just fed up with it is just mind blowing. And I honestly, I can't say anything against it. And in fact, it's actually been helpful because it helped me. It helped me become more aware because like the whole the Black Lives Matter movement and the Me Too and some of these other ones, hearing it and then you hear about it and then if you don't understand or you're certain, it's been documented. Your outlook on the world is dictated by the people you associate with.
Yes.
Your personality, your character, is influenced by the people you choose to surround yourself with. There's many leadership books that talk about power and influence, and successful people surround themselves with a particular group with people. I personally tend to surround myself with people who give me different perspectives and who have a variety of perspectives. If I surrounded myself with people who just said yes, that's a great idea, I'd probably shoot myself.
Yeah.
Nope, sorry, bad joke. But because then I'm not growing. And while I always love diversified opinions on things, there are still times that I don't have enough of it, and I'm always out searching for more opinions, more back and forth on a discussion. Now, when I first heard about BLM, it was okay. That doesn't make sense to me. Don't all lives matter. But then I got some new perspectives on it, and now I understand. It isn't just. It's not everything that. It's like you're doing this to draw focus. You're also, but you're not, everybody with a brain knows that, or not so much that. I don't want to sound derogatory. If you think about it, and you think about it, and you're not have enough input of information, you realize, yes, they all matter, but you never. It's become so norm in so many ways to not think about a particular segment of population, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I have to admit, unintentionally, I probably never really thought about it. But recently it was that, okay, some things need to change. So, about this article talks about how Wizards is looking at revamping the races every time they republish the books, expanding on what preconceived notions are. Some of those preconceived notions have to do with certain races. It's like when you think of them, they are your first instinct is that they are disalignment. I'm one of those that subscribes to the idea that alignment is fluid. Your decisions dictate your alignment, not your race, your color, your background, your class. Warlocks are not all inherently evil. Orcs are not all inherently evil. Humans are not all inherently evil. Although I can argue on it. That's situational. So
Let's scope out the landscape. You know, a movie I just watched. I'm joking.
Well, you know. Sometimes I think Agent Smith isn't wrong. You know, I think humans are more destructive than anything else on the planet, and they just don't know any better.
Oh yeah, it's interesting.
But you look at these various races, and old D&D as it comes up is like it always depicts them in a certain light. There's been some recent media recently, though, that some of those barriers are broken down. But accompanying this article, which talks about how they're looking to revamp the races to make them to kind of broaden, make things more inclusive, to essentially take away the black and white and make everything more gray. Just because this group of people is here does not mean that this group is bad. It's just a matter of the choices, and it's really starting and emphasizing on the choices. players always ask me, "Do you have any race or class limitations in your builds?" My answer is always no. You want to make a changeling, make a changeling. You want to make a minotaur, make a minotaur. You want to make a drow, make a drow. I don't care, because your character will dictate how that, or you as the player is going to dictate how that character performs. But with that same thought, as I am not really thinking about, I haven't really given much thought to other factors. And with this article, they kind of go into that, and they're looking at trying to talk with more people, get more varied opinions, and I really respect them for that. One of the big ones is the Vistani from Curse of Strahd, since we're talking about Curse of Strahd coming out. Vistani, when you see them, and it's like, yes, they're talking about, this is supposed to be a representation of the Romani or Gypsies. Well, yes, there's a lot of stereotypes that go, and that doesn't exactly translate real well over time. Not that it's not excusing it. It's just over time, as you become more informed, become more aware, and then things that at 20 years ago don't make a lot of sense now. So this was one of those things I really liked, how they're going to kind of revamp this and get some input. A parallel for what we talk about here is, let's look at the movie Mulan. Disney did an animated film, Mulan, a couple of decades ago.
Late 90s, early 2000s, in that range.
But they did it, and it was Americanized. It was totally Americanized. In fact, from my understanding, it never actually played in China at all. However, the new live-action Mulan, they actually spent the time to get more cultural consultants on the cultures that are depicted in the film to represent them more accurately, because there's nothing more insulting to a group than representing them badly. Right? What do you think?
I agree with that, because if you're going to build a film, we'll use that example, Mulan, you want to have the cultural influence of what the story and premise and era represents. Sticking or voicing a character that from someone who doesn't have knowledge or doesn't have any instinctual any instinctual thought of what should be proper, or even understanding the societal ramifications of not doing it properly, you just put up a blind eye for the sake of monetization. You don't care about who you're hurting, what part of society you're hurting, or anybody's beliefs you're hurting. You're just like, I'm just going to do this and just stay in my bubble and create whatever I want. Case in point could be a film that came out a couple years ago. I'm going to say a couple years. I can't remember, but Exodus: Gods and Kings, where it focused on Moses and that story, but there was no casting of any heritage related to what the character should be. The lead role was Christian Bale. I forget who was the other role, but it was pretty much whitewashing across the board on that, and it got slammed by the critics and by the fans for them not properly retelling the story of Moses. So, yeah, there will be heavy backlash, especially in a time where the culture is evolving, and a culture is evolving where people are starting to realize, like you said, understand what the meaning of Black Lives Matter is, what the meaning of cultural appropriation is, what the meaning of inclusivity is, especially with like this article, they're bringing in input from different parts of their own community to realize, hey, we don't want to push you out and just create a stigma just because of a certain situation. We want to hear what you think would be better going forward. So, like you said, you create characters however you see fit in your game, but it's driven by choice. And through my own experiences, and like you said, surrounding people with a good varied ocean of opinions, just how I grew up, where I grew up, and where I'm going is all driven by that inclusivity and understanding. of who I am, who I'm interacting with, and who I will interact after that. Because if you don't keep an open mind, an open eye going forward, then you're just gonna fall in the trap of just blaming something within a bubble. So yeah, the Mulan comparison is a good one because you're gonna see a stark contrast between what the animated film did, and then what the live action will do when it eventually hits theaters.
Which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
But another thing to kind of move in with this.
Yeah.
The not so long ago was the D&D live event. They streamed a bunch of games. And panels and stuff. One of the panels they did was the hashtag Black AF panel on D&D D&D live. And someone had suggested I check this out because I felt it would be right up some of the how we kind of approach certain things, because we'll touch third rails gently and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, I watched this today, and I sent this to Ry to watch, so we could both kind of have an opinion on that. I would strongly recommend you guys check this out too. It was really good and really powerful because I thought it was great. 100% thought it was great.
It was a very, to people that are closed within their own ranks or within their own group, it does open your eyes to what is really happening. You know, how the effect of even playing the Dungeons and Dragons can have effect on the other people in the party.
And that's the biggest takeaway I got from it was, and prior to seeing this, when all of my friends got together for our Agents of Short game, we never actually played, but we all hung out. A similar conversation to this stream actually erupted around my dinner table. And I was just listening. I didn't want to jump in. But it happened. And it was really powerful then. Because then it was like, you're getting a perspective that if you're not that person, you don't have it. And no amount of saying you do is ever going to show it, because you literally cannot be, you're not that you're not in that group, you're not seeing that. Then seeing this panel and then hearing these 6 individuals talk, and it's very raw, it's very real, it's very much on point. And some of the biggest takeaways I got from it is you need to educate yourself. Ignorance is what is going to keep perpetuating this. If you remain ignorant, you remain unable to or unwilling to spend the time to research and learn the terms. Like, I was watching this and I'm sitting here Googling different terms because I've never heard the term before. Which again is that if the circles you're in, you're going to hear or not hear certain terms and phrases. And then you hear it and it's like, okay, what does this term or phrase mean? I could infer based on critical thinking. However, again, you run into the whole, I assume I know what it is. So I still need to go and double check. And there were a lot of interesting things, like the whole the concept of microaggression, concept of, can't remember the word right now, and I'm not going to mispronounce it, but I found it very powerful. And one of the things I took away from it, and I've been rethinking, and why I want to do an episode 0 for sure, is originally I was thinking in episode 0 to allow the players to introduce themselves on stream, kind of set that for who they are and how they're going about it. We didn't really have that in the current season of Challenge Accepted because we had done a big time shift for our broadcast slot, and some players had to leave because they could no longer participate because of the time zone difference. And so I had to bring in new players, and I had to think of creative ways to bring in the new players. And I admit, I've handled that good in some instances, and in other instances, not so well. I think one group person wanted to play an orc. He wanted to play an orc, and I went in with the way the world is, the adventure is set up. This would be the most apt place to put him for him to cross paths with the party and join the party. Fortunately, the optics, I had totally not thought about the optics of the situation, and one of the party members cast Dissident Whispers on him. So yeah, that set a great tone for the meeting of the people. So, and then so it's like, okay, that didn't. I could definitely do that better, but and also it's wanting to make sure I do some hashing out of the whole thing with seeing what the players are interested in, seeing what the players think about things, hearing the players talk and communicate. They're doing that right now. I have a planning channel on my Discord for all of the players who are involved with this, and we're going through some of those questions. It's gonna if any topic falls within the server rules, it's not going to be avoid it. Certain things like that. Server rules are dictating a lot of the way this will go, and of course PG to slightly PG-13 if it can but definitely not going much further. But the world setting, which I never really given much thought to when I run a game, now I'm giving a lot of more thought to, because I played with a few people, but I've not played. But getting into dungeon mastering online, potentially having players I've never played with before, people I've never interacted socially with outside of text conversation, and all of a sudden be in this voice conversation. We had an incident on Challenge Accepted a few weeks ago that kind of got a little dicey, but thankfully it kind of worked itself out. But it seemed like that put a few warning bells in my mind to think about it. And then watching this panel and thinking about the fact that you're running the game in a fantasy setting, but also trying to work with the fact that not every player is going to see the world the way you see it. And as a dungeon master, I have to make sure that all of my players feel welcome to play, and that I have to be mindful of how something might come across. I may deem it as, well, that's how this might have happened in history, or history has set a precedence for X, Y, and Z behavior. But that's not that's just, again, that's me doing microaggressions. That's me not thinking about how this might affect somebody else. And I have to think about not only my players, but also my audience. I want my audience to enjoy the content, enjoy the game, enjoy the experience, interact when the opportunities to interact. And I want my players to want to keep going. So I do, in some ways I do this naturally, with the fact that I don't care what race you play. I don't care what class you play. I don't care about balance. That's because that to me feels min-maxy. That feels against having to do what the party wants to do. This is a group of people who meet and decide to go do this adventure or get caught up in this adventure. So I know I never really think about some of the hot button societal issues that you might find in a medieval society, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
I just ignore. I don't go near them, but that doesn't mean that it might occur. And it's how do I make sure that, okay, how can I sit there and be better at prepping my world where it's like, all right, this is not happening anywhere near where we can interact with it, essentially upset somebody, because while I may think it's not a big deal, because of me and my disposition, somebody else may not feel the same way. And if I'm not respectful of that, or at least open to having a dialogue about it, then what's that say to me as a person or as a dungeon master? the video's not frozen.
It's not. It's another fire attack, I guess.
Oh. All my numbers are in the green, so to speak. I'm not seeing anything red or whatever. Oops.
Are you sure you're not cooking fries over there? You know, send them my way. I'm kind of hungry.
Good question. For the initial start of Challenge Accepted, I did it as a private Zoom call to kind of get a chance to meet everybody and go any verbal questions on character builds, because it was the first time I'd actually documented my character guidelines, because my character guidelines are not race class specific, but just different settings in D&D Beyond to kind of set a even tone. I plan to ask that of the players if they would like to have the episode 0 streamed. I thought it might be good to see an episode 0 streamed. It probably won't be as long as a traditional episode, but it would give a chance to kind of get that feel. But all my players have to be on board with it. And all my players, whether it's video or just audio or how they want to do it, if they don't want to have camera feed and they just want audio, be disembodied voices, I'm fine. Got to figure out character art, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm going to leave that to them. I would like to stream it because I would like to document for new players or new dungeon masters who are thinking about getting something together how with D&D there really is no right or wrong way to do something, but there's an informed and uninformed. And as I'm becoming more informed, I have now more questions, more things I want to listen for from my players as they describe their characters, their backgrounds. I've read a few backgrounds. Some of them are really involved, especially if you're using Xanathars to roll out your background. And even more so because going back to this article about diversity, one of the things that Wizards is looking at implementing is right now when you pick, say, a dwarf or what's an example I heard today? A furbog. A furbog, as a racial ability, gets a +2 to their wisdom score. So people will say, well, if I got a +2 to wisdom, then as far as a character build, a cleric makes the most class. Well, me personally, I don't. If you want to be a furbog but want to be a fighter, I'm cool with it. Put your lowest stat in there and have it bumped up because of the bonus.
Mix and match. Be creative.
Yeah, that's
a good idea.
That's a very good idea. I'm all for that one. So one of the things that Wizards was going to think about doing was allowing you to, regardless of your race that you pick, adjust the bonuses for the race. Right now it's very fixed. If it's race, you get beat. They're looking at taking that away and making it where you adjust your race bonus based on it almost looks like it's more of a background based bonus. There's some backgrounds, if you read them, it's like, okay, if I'm a sailor, then I get these bonuses, as opposed to other backgrounds. So it sounds like they're going to go more leaning that way and flatten all of the racial bonuses to allow more diversity in character builds, which to me sounds really cool.
It seems like it'll open up more creativity, more diversity, and might have a more broad effect on the journey, because there might be more choices and decisions that will have stronger ramifications depending on what you're running.
That's true. That is 100%. I am 100% on board with that. But then again, I am not someone who cares about min-maxing a character. There are people that do, and there are people that they're the ones that some of them are going to be really upset on this, because now it opens a whole new world of min-maxing and that whole debate. It's like, if that's how you want to play, that you do you, man. You do you. I will debate and I will discuss it. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But I think you're missing the point in this, and this is to allow more of the gray area in player races within the game.
Yeah, that helps out, especially just coming from a writer's perspective. When you have that gray area, it adds more layer and depth to the character, to the journey, and it'll draw more attentive value to development. So when you have a not to go too off rails, but when you have a good story, you have those gray areas. No matter if it's a movie, film, book, game, D&D, in this case, you get more of a draw, you get more of a live adventure because you really don't have a preconceived notion of where things are going to go. You might have stuff placed out where there's different avenues, but you don't have a definitive, like a linear directive. This is where it's going to go.
Yeah. Oh, and we can see that in the latest in Tides of Wildmount released through Beyond and
Drawing me in, Scuba. Drawing me in.
and Eberron Rising. Both of them have taken great strides in flattening the preconceived notion of certain races and giving them more depth. Me, I guess I've inherently had that because while there is can't even say this because my first thought on this, and now I have to rethink my thought process in my mob building is okay, I'm building the mob. Why? Not building the mob based on. Sometimes it's the excuse is it's convenient to use these races for these situations, or this is how the module said to use them. That all might change a little bit because one of the things that's nice, and this is a plug for if you're a D&D non-subscriber, is if you get a physical book, that's locked in print. That's always how it's going to be. But it appears, based on this diversity article, every time they reprint the books, there's changes to the text.
Yeah.
Now, if you have the digital version of the book, I've noticed this over the last year, but I never really understood it till now, is they refresh the content of the book for reprinting. They refresh it digitally. So you've almost always have the latest and greatest versions of the text if you have the digital book through D&D Beyond. So that's something that I'm really kind of glad I went the Legendary Bundle. I have that so I can facilitate my players. Because regardless of my personal interest in having the collection, first and foremost, I will facilitate my players and their needs first before mine. That's actually an interesting comment. Comment was, what is interesting is humans can be displayed as either good or evil, but other races are usually set, at least in most adventures. That's true.
It is.
That is where part of the problem is. And this is something that if you watch this panel, this Black AF panel on YouTube, which I
did. Yeah, I pasted the link in there.
Okay.
Above.
You watch that, it's like they're straight up there. It's like Drow, Orc, and Tieflings.
They do talk about them extensively.
Now I have a personal story for the Tieflings. And this was something that again strikes home is when my Teens on Parade were playing. A couple of them were doing Tieflings. Now I'm sitting there as Dungeon Master and they're sitting there playing as Tieflings. The players are telling me that because Tieflings are this, they are shunned. And I looked at them, I said, no. Way back when, maybe. But now they're just as common as anybody else. There is no shunning of a race in any of my cities. I find that's entirely stupid.
Yeah.
I guess that is something that, not realizing it, I was already kind of in there with certain things. I never liked the concept. And that's, again, my own personal opinion. Is like judging someone on what they look like instead of their character is ignorant, uninformed. And then even if you have the best of intentions, sometimes there's still something that Volgraza, the D&D world founded around human adventures that interact with other races/types. Flexibility. I don't know if flexibility is the right word, but yeah, if you think about the fact the game's 50 years old, before that it was based on, it was inspired by Tolkien. Before that, other
Yeah,
mythologies and
different
stories.
folklore and stuff from like Scandinavia and the medieval times and stuff. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of that goes in there, and again, it's how those things are. It kind of it's the fact that they're depicted. It's not so. It's worse than just the society. It's how their physical descriptions are. Like you can tell how it was a lens, because everything you do is done through a lens. Every conversation you have, every action you take is done through a lens of your personal experience and your background, your upbringing, and who you surround yourself with. People you surround yourself with, people you did surround yourself with, are influencing your lens. So the broader your circle is, the broader your lens is. And that's something that I've learned and a lot of great input. Like people will come in and out of your orbit all the time. Like I have we've all got friends we've known for years and years. We may not see them every day anymore. We may not talk to them as much as we used to, but we still every so often the stars align and they show back up in your schedule. So you just kind of have to. I guess my big thing for this is how I'm seeing it. A lot of this really does center around informing yourself and being open to acknowledging that your circle that you associate with is going to affect your outlook. And as this panel has so eloquently discussed it and showcased it, even if you don't intend, if you're not, you may not intend to, but it does happen, and that whole bit makes so much sense because now that it helps to broaden the lens, and I feel that is probably my big takeaway. Is broadens my lens. Now it's going to broaden and hopefully make all of my gaming more interesting. Now there is now a whole world of gray that is scattered through my thought process.
Locke brought up a good point.
Yeah, even old school D&D, only humans could be paladins, ultra good guys. Maybe unintended, but that was the time ago. And I'm trying to shake that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly, exactly. Seeing that in the evolution. You're seeing that again in the evolution of society. The more informed we are, the less these things start to dissipate. Hopefully. I just think we still have, I agree, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, we do have a long way to go, but hopefully it's pushing in the right direction.
Yes, and all action on that is like, feel the urge to go out to a protest, you do you. But the biggest thing is you need to be active. Local community, you need to get out and vote. Election times come. That's where your voice makes the most impact. All this other stuff's great because it draws attention, kind of ebbs and flows. But ultimately, though, voting booth on election day, where all the power rests.
Like I always said, go out and vote and always focus on your local elections, because as much as the national stuff is important, the locality and who's running your local city, county, or region is just as important.
And another thing was all this change starts at home. Your home is where you set the tone for everything. You have to start. It's just like when planning a world in D&D. You start small. Start in your home. Start with your circle of friends, associates, and just kind of gradually go out from there.
Boom.
Alrighty, well, that was
Good discussion.
yeah, I think that was probably one of our more real
It's more
discussions.
real discussion, yeah, because the video, like I watched it last night, is eye opening.
Yes.
Um, I like I mentioned, I grew up in a black community most of my life, so I was very aware of a lot of things, and this just brings to limelight some of the things, how it can reverberate through not just certain parts of society, but can even reverberate through entertainment.
The thing
So
is it's I want to take it a little broader, and
yeah,
the fact that it doesn't matter in America. This is probably the most easily identifiable thing. Get into a conversation. Look at history. Look at some other things. Think you have to think about all of the any. It's basically a lot of the foundation for some of this is you don't look like how I look, so therefore I must think that you're this.
yeah.
And even in those people, it's like, well, I do have. It's like, yeah, that's actually a classic microaggression. Not even go there. But look at all the anybody any group that had that. Or early explore the early founders of the country during the railroads that moved across. A lot of Asian and Asian immigrants, and there were so many stigmas with so many things with that. But it's not. But not to take away. But it's this is always happening in different pockets. Back then, it was ignorance. In fact, it's still ignorance. No, it's no two ways
It's
about it.
yeah, it's still a level of ignorance. Yeah,
That level of ignorance. So we have to resolve that. We have to broaden our lens and broaden our knowledge to eliminate that. Because as long as that anywhere, you're never gonna. This is not going to go away. Resolving the ignorance, and sometimes that it in a lot of times that's going to take going to the voting booth to push out who's in office, put new people in office who don't have the same biases and ignorances to want to push to eliminate the ignorance. Because you can apply that whole thing about flattening any kind of racial bonus to all the races in D&D. If you could find a way to apply that, done. Oh, it's yep. I teachers. I got friends. I have friends in education as well. It's just
you have
teachers
friends
have
in
to.
education. You have one right here that's
Yeah, you're
working
an
his way.
aspiring. You're going to be a. You're an aspiring educator, so I imagine your
Yes.
classes will be all kinds of fun after all this.
Oh yeah, a lot of colorful rainbows and glee. You know, we'll see. Keep the wet fishes coming. So
But yeah, let's not to say this is an important topic that people should have and need to have, because if we're not having it, then all we're doing is perpetuating the ignorance. And on that note, we're going to go ahead, shift over to odds and ends.
you got to be educated on some odd things, some
There's
interesting
some
things.
there's some odds and there's some interesting, and we're gonna have some fun with some odds and ends
Oh
because
yes.
I had a great serious topic, serious talk. I'd love to do that again. Um, yeah, educators are the best. I totally agree. All right, so our odds and ends segment where we find random internet stories and we talk about them. I've got a kind of a theme going on here with these, not related to what we talked about earlier. That should not be. That should be its own encapsulated thing that keeps carrying on. But we're going to talk about some other cool things.
Some
That,
interesting, fun things, and there's some, nostalgic things.
oh,
Roaring its way back into our lives.
emphasis on roaring.
Yes.
Let's go with our first story. That is, guess what came back to movie theaters Father's Day weekend? That's right, Jurassic Park.
Yes, sir.
There was Father's Day weekend was the first time we've gotten some box office numbers in quite a while, and they've been rather sad for obvious reasons.
Yes. You want to. Yeah.
So Father's Day weekend we had a select number of theaters, about 230 theaters played showings of the original Jurassic Park, and get this, it pulled in all $517,000 that weekend.
$500,000, people.
Number one at the box office.
Number one, the dinosaur of our child.
Interesting tidbit. That is 35 years ago. The original film came out, and it was number one at the box office when it came out then too.
Oh yes.
So much. This article talks about it from Screen Rant. Talks about some of the other things for that. Some interesting little tidbits from that is also re-released in theaters was Jaws, another Steven Spielberg film. That one was only shown in 187 theaters, but came out to be about $1,300 less than what Jurassic Park made. So, obviously, if there's a few more theaters, Jaws would have been number one in the box office again.
Dun-it.
And
Dun-it.
and since we talked about 35 years ago, Jurassic Park came out, or 35 years ago, Jurassic Park came out. I remember last day of school in middle school, me and a couple of my friends left school early to go check this film out when it dropped in theaters. I think it was the first film I saw multiple times that summer. But interesting thing, the weekend, Father's Day weekend, the weekend 19th through the 21st. 45 years ago, that same weekend is when Jaws hit the.
That's interesting.
A little tidbit. I like that. A little anecdote for the next time. Next time things are coming, trivia wise. So that's cool. Ry, what do you think?
I think it's very exciting to hear not only that Jurassic Park is taking the box office again, a really great movie. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. But it also emphasizes the fact that there is an earnest to want to see films in the theater again, even in small bits, even with the limited access and maybe some social distance theater. People want to go and live that theater experience, and also by putting out these classic films, classic pop, well-renowned films from back in the past, it might generate that enthusiasm for people to come back to theaters and be like, maybe it might be worth to see Tenet when it opens up, Mulan when it opens up, Wonder Woman 1984 when it opens up. Try to get that buzz again ahead of time by using classic popular films to get the crowds to start, re-energize the crowds once the theaters fully open up with the unreleased films. So
it's plausible. I mean, it's nice. Sometimes you just need that theater experience.
Yeah, and yeah,
the original thing for the theaters was an escape from everyday life.
Yeah, and I am biased on that. I love the theater experience because it is the trueness of escape, especially if you get that perfect triangular effect of a film. You get that trueness of escape, and if you're in that perfect theater at the right time with that right movie, you're just going to be blown away. So
the only thing I think is interesting because we're touching on bringing older films back into theaters to kind of give them new life, considering we have this big dead space, so to speak. New films coming to theaters. There's another part in this article where it theorizes that based on these numbers, the theater industry is going to come back to what it was pre-COVID. I'm skeptical on that. I really do think the theater experience is not going to be what we saw it was. I think it is kind of one of those things. The impact was so substantial that we're not going to see it in the same sense that it was.
I'm not as skeptical. I'm kind of like right in the middle. I think that there are movie theater geeks like me who, regardless of all the changes that have happened to society, not only just COVID, but more accessibility through streaming platforms, through VOD, through even illegal downloads. But I don't do that. But there are still the theaters still have some kind of serviceable purpose, and what it's going to do is it's just going to change. it's just gonna evolve because even before COVID and before streaming, theaters were evolving in different ways and trying to expand the theater, provide better amenities, introduce 3D, 4D experiences. They were already evolving, and what this is, it's gonna probably provide. There's gonna be a happy medium at some point where it's going to be. Which I've mentioned before, so I'm not going to go too in depth, is that there's going to be a leeway of, major blockbusters are going to be here, the lower tier movies are going to be over here, and then there's going to be the middle ground where they're going to release movies. I'm going to use the example King of Staten Island, theater and VOD, so that, you can get your bang for your buck if you want to escape into the dark room of the theater or you want to watch it on your couch. So.
Or we're going to find that theaters will have far less seating because you're not going to pack everybody in for social distancing. So
that's fine by me. Let me give me those recliners.
All right, our next story I don't have a picture for because I couldn't really find one, but it's Pokemon related.
Pokemon.
There is a new Pokemon game called Pokemon Unite that is on its way out to Switch and Apple and Android devices. This is interesting because it's a MOBA style game.
Yes. So in the craze of all that massive battle arena games like League of Legends and Dota 2, Pokemon's jumping into the ring with that.
Interesting thing for this article is it points out that this team-based MOBA was developed in cooperation with Tencent Tommy Studios, TIMI Studios,
yes, sir.
Which they're responsible for the Call of Duty mobile game and Arena of Valor.
I do know the latter is pretty popular on the mobile devices. I've not played it personally, but I do know it's popular.
It's interesting. So, I mean, if you're a fan of those games, this is the same group that worked on this Pokemon MOBA, so it might be interesting. It's supposed to have cross-play between Switch and Android and iOS.
That's definitely another plus for, cross-platforming games in the future.
Downside is there's no release date yet.
No dates. So you're just going to have to dream the dream of 5 versus 5 of Pokemon versus Pokemon on a MOBA-like map. But you'll have access to some known characters that are popular in the series. So you'll be able to control like Lucario, Squirtle, Pikachu, Bulbasaur, Gengar, just to name a few.
In our next story,
Lord B giveth and run away.
Look at that face.
Ha 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 ha.
This is Lord Fairfax. A 65-pound alligator snapping turtle found in Fairfax, Virginia. The Fairfax wildlife. There was a report of this turtle being near a residential pond in Fairfax. And authorities were called out that this is a creature that normally lives far south of Virginia. And it was found here. The thing is, this is a baby.
Yeah, this big lovable joy of 200 pounds is just a baby. He needs care and love, maybe some milk. I don't know.
Thankfully, though, this turtle doesn't really impose much of a threat in the community to passerbys. However, given the climate that is here, it wouldn't last very long. However, Lord Fairfax has been relocated to the Virginia Zoo here in Norfolk, Virginia, where he can get a nice, comfy life. Interesting tidbit: these turtles can grow in excess of 200 pounds. This dude's only 65 pounds, so
he's got a lot. Big. He's got a lot more growing to do, and finding a new home in the Virginia Zoo, and knowing they just rebuilt that reptile exhibit, he's going to be living the high life. And I'll probably be visiting him sometime soon because I did renew my membership.
You have to get a selfie with him.
I will, and I will show all of y'all how friendly he is.
Interview him about his travel from Fairfax to Norfolk.
I do have a video camera. I will document the interview and bring it to you exclusively to Scuba and The Ry.
But yeah, this is it's cool because there's so many interesting wildlife in our world that we never really get to see.
Yeah.
And I think this is just that mystery in the world that it seems to be missing, and things like this remind you that there's still plenty of mystery and wonder in the world. That why can't we focus on that instead of this other crap?
I don't know, but the mystery is how did he get to Fairfax?
Most likely, to be honest, because he would technically be considered an exotic species, somebody probably got him when he was itty bitty.
Yeah.
Thought it'd be cool. Well, itty bitty don't stay itty bitty forever, especially if you don't know what you bought.
Yeah, itty bitty became biggy bitty, and you're just like, nope, not today.
And this is how we have invasive species like the python, the stuff going on in the Everglades.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Yeah, when you introduce, species that aren't supposed to be there, it causes environmental havoc, and then, another species will die most of the time. But I guess he just likes the good food up there. They got a variety of restaurants in Northern Virginia.
Oh, really? He's doing a little restaurant shopping for the turtles.
Oh yeah, they got a good variety. He probably wanted to visit some monuments. DC's right across the water, so it's always good to go on a historical tour. Maybe visit his brothers at the National Zoo. Just saying, can travel. Tickets are cheap on the planes.
Sometimes some animals belong where they live natively, not halfway across the world, because somebody thinks they're exotic and therefore that's status. You're an idiot.
No, you should probably just not do that, people.
Alrighty, so our next story. This one. Brian, do you know what that is?
What is that?
That is called the Sparko box.
Sparko box, interesting.
It was the prototype. This is the prototype. This was created back in 1967.
Way back in the day, way before my time.
Way back. And if you're not familiar with that is, then maybe you'll be more familiar with what it's called today. That is the first karaoke machine.
Sing to me, people. I will sing to you.
Turns out the inventor of the karaoke machine is still alive and still has this, and it still works. He can't pronounce the name. You want to take a shot at pronouncing the name?
The name of the guy?
Yes. Well, most of the time the karaoke is credited to an individual who invented a machine in 1971. That's the first name in our article, and then the second name is the guy who actually owned an electronics company and decided he would basically come into work whistling tunes or singing tunes, and somebody had made a comment that led to the creation of this device. This device was originally based on playing 8-track tapes. The first karaoke song played on this device, or the first song that gave birth to it, is a song that's Bujo no Yami, which basically translates to the Heartless Dream, a very popular tune from the 1930s. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very interesting to learn where things that you never know had history have very strong history and ties, and how things come into play, especially like the karaoke machine started in one place and got expanded by another.
And this is built on, and there was an extra 8-track tape deck, and put this together to where you could get. This is what birthed the whole thing with karaoke. So it still works. It's still functional. It's a nice little bit of tech history.
But he lived a good long life, and he brought to the world a very wonderful gift.
Oh, he's still alive. There was an author by the name Matt Alt who sought this guy out and talked with him, and documented this whole story in a book called Pure Invention by Matt Alt, A-L-T.
I gotta find that book.
Yeah, I've seen 8-tracks. I think my first radio had the 8-track option, but it never worked anymore. But I was all cassette tapes. None of them play anymore, fortunately. That's some great tapes. Alrighty, and our last story.
You want to ride the ride?
Twist. You know what? We'll do that. We'll do it manual. Alright. So, we've all. How many people have heard of Evangelion?
Me.
Probably one of the most controversial animes I've ever seen because it just. There's so many different ways it ended. It just left you scratching your head. It's like, what did I watch?
Sure.
But it was really awesome.
Yeah.
Hands down, one of the most awesome animes in the last 30 years. But here in Japan, they made a attraction out of it.
Of course, in Japan they would do that.
This is a rideable ride that you can go and sit in. That Ava 1 is roughly 15 meters tall and appears to be ascending out of a pool of some liquid. It's been years since I watched the anime. I don't remember all the terms, but visitors can go in and take a series of aptitude tests, see if they would qualify as a pilot, and then go for a photo op inside the pilot plug. Or you could sit out on his outstretched hand to take photos there. Then there's a show that's about a 3-minute long show that simulates Ava and Angel battles using water guns and other special effects. What are your thoughts, Ry?
I am booking my ticket to go check this thing out, but probably can't travel to Japan anytime soon. But this as a new attraction you have to wait till October to go ahead and check it out. But it is being the new attraction is going to celebrate an upcoming release of Evangelion and the new Evangelion film. So it's going to coincide with some more fun things to watch in the series.
I think it would be. Again, these are just some of these cool attractions people come up with. I mean, it looks really cool. With this
combined with the Nintendo World and the Studio Ghibli Park that's being planned, and it's just fun to see that you can actually have your childhood being ingrained in the culture of Japanese culture from a lot of my life. Get to see you can actually visit places.
Yes.
It just opens your eyes, and something that I will add to my bucket list.
Alrighty, well that is the end of our stories. So that's the end of our stories for tonight.
We have hit the end, people, on my own karaoke.
It's a long one tonight, almost 2 hours. I appreciate everybody for hanging out with us up for this tonight.
Thank you.
Hopefully we weren't too soapboxy with. Hopefully I wasn't too soapboxy with the conversation, but it really is a powerful thing to think about. So influence and getting that. The more you learn, the more your perspective changes. So I felt that it was a really good thing to discuss. Hopefully I did it justice and I didn't just sit out of my mouth for fun of it.
It was a good discussion, I believe. Because once you start to learn things that you didn't know that was involved in your own community and or circle, start to realize it's like, I am part of some of the problem, but I can be part of the solution.
Yes. I think sharing the knowledge, sharing that, encouraging people, don't understand, go look it up.
Look it up, research. Google's right there at your fingertips.
I mean, these people, go look it up. You don't know what it is or don't understand it, go look it up and then ask questions based on doing research. If you're not willing to do the research, then, you know, you're not helping this.
Yeah, if you're not willing to learn, you are part of the problem.
Right,
Sorry to be harsh. But let's hand down happy thoughts. We're going to Evangelion Land. Who's coming with me? I'll pay for the tickets. I will pay for the tickets.
And we're looking at trying to have some guests come on the show and sit there and talk about D&D and other things. Got a few I'm in talks with right now, so I can't really go too much into it until I get some confirmations.
I am curious.
Oh yes, I'm reaching out, trying to do more, trying to network and connect with more people and see if I can make some new connections and some new friends. And thank you for checking us out. Thank you for watching this.
Thank you,
if you're watching this
all y'all.
On video at the edited version. Really appreciate it. We do have merch if you want to check out things.
Check out that merch. Get some shirts.
We got things like mouse pads, cups, and stuff. I mean, you don't have to, but hey, it's there. I mean, every little bit helps, right?
Yeah, every little bit helps.
Of course, it's only if you can. Biggest thing you can do is spread the word, get more people to come check us out, and come join us over on the Discord. I've got a few. We're still doing some renovations there, so there's a lot of room for feedback to kind of help make things better. Greatly appreciate it. All right. So there's a list of all our contact information, where you can find us, give us shout outs, things like that. I do have a couple of videos I'm in the process of working on and finishing up. We'll get those out as soon as I can. That we will wish you all have a great week, have a great weekend, have a great holiday. Be safe, love each other, and catch you on our next one.
Peace.